One of the first tools that most woodworkers buy is a circular saw. It feels like it can do just about anything, but then you start making cuts and they don't turn out quite how you thought they would. This isn't a skill problem, it's an expectation problem. One of the main reasons a circular saw looks so promising is because it's affordable. Typically, you can pick one up for a couple $100s, where a table saw might be $800 or more. They're portable, powerful, and versatile, and their smaller size makes them seem a little bit less intimidating. This might be the first tool that you buy that appears to be a real woodworking tool. The circular saw was my first tool, and it was actually given to me by my dad, and that tool was a total pile of junk. The blade was wobbly and the saw was completely worn out, and the cord had about 6 repair spots in it. Don't ask me how my dad did that, but that was my first saw. And I built my very first project with it, and it turned out just fine. It might have been a little bit dangerous though. Some very common advice is you can build just about anything with a circular saw. And for the most part, that's kind of true, actually, but not usually by itself. Usually you'll need some attachments or some accessories to make it possible to build just about anything. I do talk about this a little bit on my other channel, How I Do Things Woodworking. There's a link down below if you want to check it out. And as you're making your first couple of cuts with your circular saw, it might actually build your confidence until you start building something and trying to fit pieces together, and then your confidence might go bye-bye. The circular saw is a straight cutting tool. Don't try and cut a curve with it. That's not going to go very well. It's ultimately designed to break down materials, not finish it. And it does an amazing job of breaking down large pieces of wood like plywood. The circular saw is used a lot in construction when cutting plywood, and in most cases, that is perfectly suitable and fine for that. But there's a very big difference between the job site and construction in fine woodworking. You're sort of looking at a difference between cutting something to size and cutting something for final accuracy. And this is where, as a beginner, a light bulb might turn on inside your head. You can't just pick up a circular saw and expect square cuts with no reference. Using a hand tool like a circular saw without any sort of reference will almost never give you any sort of repeatable cuts. And you can't expect to have clean joinery using just a circular saw without any sort of secondary processing done to the cut. You'll probably end up using a hand plane or some other type of saw to get that final dimension. This isn't misuse of the saw, it's just asking something of the saw that it was never designed to do. When you first start using that circular saw, it might feel pretty good. You might feel like you're making great cuts. But then you start to realize that you're making slight steering errors while trying to make a straight cut. You're also going to run into issues like tool and blade deflection, especially if you're not cutting perfectly straight. Because of the way a circular saw works, sometimes you just have to start and stop. There's just no getting around that. It might be because you're moving the power cord. It might be because you need to move to the other side of the workpiece. It might be because of, I don't know, who knows what. It doesn't matter, you're going to be starting and stopping, and that alone can cause issues. Basically, all the accuracy on a circular saw comes from human control instead of a machine with a solid reference like a table saw. And frankly, sometimes almost right is worse than obviously wrong. There are a lot of things that circular saws are not good at, like repeatable, identical cuts, perfect miter cuts, tight joinery edges, or just assembly-ready accuracy without some help or secondary processing. And I'm not criticizing a circular saw. I love my circular saw. And I think it is an amazing tool, but it just needs to be used for the right things. It's really hard to beat a circular saw at breaking down plywood because it's so small and portable, and it's easier to work on a large sheet like a piece of plywood, unless maybe you have a track saw, which is basically a circular saw with a reference. This is also why it's so perfect for construction, because of its portability and versatility. I like to work with rough sawn lumber a lot, and one of the first things I need to do before I can mill it is cut it down into manageable sizes for my planer. Circular saw is great for that. And with the right accessories, you can cut nice, straight, repeatable edges. For example, I have a Craig rip cut that I used for a very long time before I got a circular saw, and I made all kinds of cool projects with it, and they turned out fantastic. Or you can take a known straight edge and clamp it down to your board, and you'll make a great straight cut with a circular saw. And I've even seen a lot of videos on YouTube about people creating tiny little table saws with their circular saw flipped upside down. Now, while that is technically possible and a circular saw kind of is like a little tiny table saw when you flip it upside down, and I've even talked about that and joked about that in some of my videos on my other channel, it's really not a great idea. Every time I've seen anybody do it, the final product looks pretty unsafe, but you can go and check those things out for yourself. The circular saw is great for working on your project before things get to be too precise. So a circular saw is a great early stage tool, not a final stage tool. So if you're a beginner in woodworking, try to think of the circular saw as a rough cut tool. To make straighter cuts and to gain more confidence, try to pair it with a guide. You do want to keep practicing to make better cuts, but ultimately, if you really want a good straight cut, you're going to need a straight edge as a guide. And more than likely, you're going to end up with some sort of secondary cuts that could be planing, trimming, or squaring. And I would never judge your woodworking skill by how good you are with a circular saw. That's just not practical. It's a difficult tool to make straight cuts with freehand. And while you're never going to make perfectly square and straight cuts with a circular saw by hand, you can make pretty darn straight cuts, but it takes a lot of practice to be a circular saw ninja. And if you don't have a circular saw yet and you're ready to buy one, make sure the one you're looking at has a nice solid flat base. Make sure it's something that's not too heavy for you and that is comfortable in your hand. Mine's kind of heavy, but you know, I can handle it. The most horsepower isn't the most important thing, but it can be nice for cutting thicker materials. The accuracy is mostly going to come from you, not from the specs of the saw. Do you want a cordless saw? What about dust collection? When I bought my circular saw, it actually didn't have a good port for dust collection, and I had to like retrofit one, but ultimately now it works pretty well. But I wish I would have thought about that before I bought it. Some saws have a light that help you see your cuts. I kind of like that. That's just something I look for. These are just a couple more things to consider. And when in doubt, check the reviews and see what other people are saying. But never buy a saw just because it's the cheapest. You know what they say, buy once, cry once. And if it makes you feel better, maybe buy a brand that you're familiar with. Maybe something that you already have in your shop. There is no best saw. It depends on the person and what you're going to be using the saw for. And frankly, a really good sharp blade is probably better than a really expensive high-end saw. It's very easy and common for people to get frustrated when using a circular saw. But if you understand the tool, it removes a lot of the self-doubt. And woodworking gets a lot easier when you're using the right tool for the right job. If woodworking to you is feeling harder than it should, it's often because of mismatched expectations. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope it was helpful for you, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you did, please comment and let me know what you thought. Also, hit the like and subscribe button to support my channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.